I will just get started since we're 4 minutes in. I just did a talk at an event in Nashville, and we sensed that there was a lot of fear in the room. And setting big goals, vision planning, is all about living in faith, having faith in yourself, having faith in your business, having faith in your prospecting, having faith in your systems, your branding. It is all about having faith, right? And I love what the Bible says. The Bible says, where the vision isn't clear, the people will perish. We had a amazing agent from Dallas. She went from 10 to 50 million in 2 years. So she just had this unbelievable ascent. And we had her as one of our featured speakers. And I love how she started off the talk. She said, if you have no vision or, or accountability, you're already at your destination, right? So how many in 2024 have felt like they've been on a hamster wheel, just running and you're not going far, right? We've been surviving but not thriving. So I truly believe that in order to have the best life, in order to lead others, in order to lead our clients, our teams, our kids, whatever your dynamic is, the vision has to be crystal clear. So that is what Kendra and I are going to do today is we're going to help you get a clear plan for next year. We're going to help you think bigger, right? My talk that I did at this event was called 10X is better than 2X. It was based off a book that I had read, and it's just as hard to double your business as it is to 10X. It's probably harder because it's more busy work. It's I'm going to make more calls. I'm going to see more people. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work more hours instead of figuring out what systems you need to put in place, who you need to hire, what you need to do different. I've never seen a time in the industry in my 23 years now in business. I've never seen a time with more change. This is more change than '07 or '08. This is more change than I've seen probably over the last 15 years within this last year and a half. The AI, what you all had to deal with on the buyer agency agreement, right? The massive increase in interest rates, the lowest transaction on the mortgage side since 1995. We have not had a year this bad in mortgages since 1995. So we're right there with you. We've been getting punched in the gut and our teeth kicked in. But the good news is we're still here. We haven't quit. We've survived and now we're going to thrive in 2025. So we're going to do a webinar once a month for those of you committed to growth. I've told my story before. I had $330,000 of debt. I had a drug addiction. I attempted suicide in January of 2010. I was massively broken. And we're all broken to a degree, but I was as broken as a man could be. And luckily, I found Christ, I found coaching, and I found Kristen, my beautiful wife, all with right after that attempt on my life. And I learned through that time that the first thing that I needed to get right and change about myself was my vision, right? I was just running, not knowing where I was going. I had no systems. I had no love. I had no accountability. I had nothing in my life to look forward to. So the first test and the first assignment they gave me in NA when I went to rehab was a vision board, right? And a plan. Not only, hey, we're going to give you the tools to get your life right, we're going to give you a big vision. So that's what Kendra and I want to do today. We're going to do a different topic once a month. I appreciate you all being on. I could not think anyone better in the industry to lead us through a difficult time than my friend Kendra. Kendra just came out with a book, and for those of you that stay on, I'm going to pick 3 people to send her book on. Amazing book. I'll let her talk about that a little bit. She's been on some top lists on Amazon already, and the book came out less than a month ago, Kendra.
That's right.
So she just came out with a book. I can tell you I've been around a lot of high performers. I've been around many loan officers and realtors through coaching, through public speaking, that make millions of dollars, right? And that's a huge feat in and of itself. But every time I pull back the curtain and I get to know the person, I don't want to be around them. I don't want to be like them. I don't want their life. My ethics, my morals don't align with theirs. I can tell you that I've spent 5 years living in the same town as Kendra, and she was kind of forced to be my friend because we had no other friends here besides the Pumas. So she was forced into a friendship with me, and I can tell you, there's no woman that my wife and I would like to emulate their marriage. Her and her husband, Greg, have been huge friends to us, but mentors in our marriage. There's no one that aligns with God like I want to, like I've seen Kendra. There's no one that leads their business and celebrates others at a higher level before she celebrates herself. And she's had massive amounts of success as a realtor, and I'll let her share her journey within real estate. So to me, there's no better person, there's no better Christian, there's no better realtor coach in the country than my near and dear friend Kendra Cooke. So I'll let her take it away.
Wow. Well, I hope I live up to all that, you guys. Thank you so much, Chad. And you were giving somebody, my camera wasn't working. I was very frustrated because I'm always early and I didn't have a password. My camera wasn't working, so I missed out on who, but you look quite dapper today, Mr. Lubin.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
yes, very
I'll let the
nice.
Metallica shirt and the backwards hat go today. Just
Oh, yes. So usually when I see Chad, he's hanging out with my husband. They have Metallica gear on because they're Metallica groupies, is what I call them. So I'm super excited to be with you guys today. And I will give you just a quick scenario of my background. You guys aren't here to hear about that. I'm sorry, this is not my office. I'm actually sitting in my sister's house in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'm doing my first book signing here today. So I flew up here yesterday and then I have another one tomorrow. And then I'm coming to Charlotte to do a book signing with Chad and a big group there on Friday. So this is just a pit stop on the trail for me. But I got licensed. Well, let me start back. In 1988, I graduated high school and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. For those of you, if you've read my book, you know, no GPS, no cell phone, cash, no credit card, a paper, map of directions. And I was like, here I am, world. And came to go to law school and instead went to work at a real estate office. And I worked from the front desk of a reception area of a real estate company all the way to owning my own brokerage and selling it in 2017. So spent almost 30 years perfecting what I think is a fabulous industry. And then the last about 15 years of my career, I have spent coaching others around the country. And so I love digging into people's business, finding their weaknesses and helping them get better, finding their chaos and providing a solution that they can adopt and never go back to that chaotic lifestyle. And I think real estate lends itself to absolute chaos because there is no system or structure. It's like, here's your license, here's your cell phone, good luck, right? And so I found that chaos in my life, I just couldn't live with it after years and years. So I started creating systems and processes, which I now talk about all over the country. So that's really what Chad and his group is providing for you guys for the next 12 months. I'm going to give you one system every single month to implement into your business. And then your fellow loan officer will have meetings and calls with you, provide tools that you need, practice scriptings, because once you adopt a technique and you get it in a system, it's way more likely that you will stop doing it. Most of us start processes and then we stop because we don't have a structure around it of how we do it. It's not time blocked. Just like goal setting, business planning, what we're going to talk about a little bit today. A lot of people don't set goals because they have in the past and they'll set a goal that somebody else has portrayed on them, like you should close this many deals or you should have this many people in your database or whatever. And then when you fall short, you're like, oh well, to heck with it, I'm not doing that anymore. And that's not really the way it should be. So hopefully the way I walk you through goal setting and business planning today is a little different than you've ever done it in the past, and you'll see why as we get into it. But my ultimate goal is to pay it forward. I was super fortunate to have a very successful career in real estate, great career in coaching, and now I'm out on my own doing my book and still just paying it forward, speaking on stages and speaking to people like you. So thanks to Chad and his crew for having me today. So I really want to jump in. Super excited. Do you guys have the forms? Did everybody get a copy of the forms or do you have them in the chat? Hopefully.
anyone that needs them, I can put them in the chat.
Okay, I am going to share my screen with you all. And we are going to start with the business forecast first. So it looks like, can you guys see that on my screen? Are you seeing the business forecast?
You're not sharing your screen.
No, not yet.
I'm trying. It says it's loading.
There you go.
That doesn't need to load. It just needs to share. What is going on? Hold on. Let's go back. I have it pulled up. It's not playing nice with me. If anybody knows me, they know technology is not my friend. Okay. Let's see what we got going on here.
Especially when you need it.
Especially when you need it. Yes, thank you. Okay, here we go. Now we're getting to it. Okay. Ta-da. Please tell me it's coming up there. Now can you see it?
Yes. Well,
Oh,
it's loading. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. All right. So the thing about goal setting, you guys, and business planning, forecasting is you can't create a plan if you don't know where you are currently. So I hear a lot of people, Chad said it earlier, I'm going to double my income. Well, technically that can happen. I'm not going to say never, but when it does, the wheels fall off, the client experience goes down or whatever, because we're not prepared to double our business, whether it be systems in place, structure, team, hourly, whatever it is, bandwidth. So this business forecast, we're going to take a step back. So we're going to create where we are in 2024 before we go forward in 2025. And some of you may say, well, I don't have this information. That's fine. You've got the opportunity to do it, but I want to walk you through it. I think one of the biggest struggles in real estate, and if I had one wish, it would have been that when I went to real estate school, I learned about finances 30 something years ago, not 20, 15, right? Because real estate, A, is a very expensive business, and B, they don't explain net, gross, commission, percentages, tax brackets. We never hear any of that when we're getting our real estate license. So we come out, we're commingling our personal monies and our commissions. And, when I ask people all over the country, like, how much money did you make last year? And they're like, 500,000. I'm like, dang, then you earned $1 million. They're like, no, I earned 500. Well, you earned 500, but you didn't make 500. There's such a disconnect in our industry about how much we make and how much we keep. So you're going to notice as I run through this form, what I want you to really put in here when you go back and research these numbers. So if you don't have them today, don't beat yourself up. You didn't know what to expect, but I want to make sure that you understand when you're going through this form at a later date, you have the information that you need. So let's start. Your estimated taxable income. Let's talk about what taxable income is. I gave you a cheat sheet right below there. The taxable income is your commission. So gross commission that you received on your sale minus your split with the broker. So if you're on a 90-10, pull out 10%, and then the expenses prior to taxes. So you guys have to understand, we pay 3 pipers before we get paid. Okay. We pay our brokerage, our broker, then we pay our expenses, and then we pay Uncle Sam. So when you look at your 1099, you're like, oh my gosh, I made $500,000. Let me assure you, you did not. Okay. So out of that 500, you have split with your broker, that has come off, but all of your expenses have. So if you're buying closing gifts, if you're paying for leads, if you are paying your cell phone out of your business, if you're hosting client events, those are all expenses that have to come out of that commission before you pay taxes. All right. But what I'm looking for at estimated taxable income is prior to taxes. So pay everybody except Uncle Sam. That's the number I want to go right there. Okay. Number 2 is your total number of units closed. I don't use leases because it skews the numbers. It's okay if you do leases, but let's talk about truly tactical closings that you had in real estate, buy side or list side, total transactions. And if you double side, people asked me this yesterday, I was doing this webinar for someone, and they said, well, what if I have a buy and a sell side? That's 2 transactions. You get paid on both sides. Okay. All right. Number 3 is your net income per transaction. Now let's talk about that number, net. You're going to take your net income and you're going to divide it by your total closed units, and that's going to give you the net unit per side. Okay. Now remember, it's after the split, before expenses and taxes. Okay, so the first one at the top is before taxes. This one is before expenses and taxes. Okay. Number 4 is your average sales price. Take your closed volume for the year, divide it by the number of transactions you had. Number 2, that's going to tell you what your average sales price is. Maybe you're like, why do you care? Let me help you with that. When we get to the bottom, I'm going to ask you a question about, do you want to grow by 5% or 10%? Sometimes growth doesn't mean more deals. It could be bigger sales prices. You can bump up a sales price by $50,000 and make up the difference and do the same amount of transactions and still make more money. But honestly, guys, people don't talk about that in our industry. It's do more deals, do more deals, do more deals, right? The other thing is we're going to look at the bottom is how many leads do you need to generate to close the deal that you want? If you're not tracking your leads, you may say, I need 20 leads next year to hit my numbers, when truly, if you had 10 warm leads that converted at a higher percentage, you wouldn't need 20. This is where we get in trouble. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? So you really got to think about, we got to know our net. We got to know our average sales prices. We've got to know our average commissions before we can set true, tangible goals. We can't just throw something on the wall and say, hey, I want to grow by 20% and pray it happens. It's not how it happens. Okay. All right. So now we've got our average sales price, because we're going to take our total number, divide it by the average units. You're going to get your average sales price for the year. I gave you the little cheater sheet there. And then a breakdown of your closed transactions. Now, true story, before I started tracking my income and my leads and all of that, I used to spend a little over $40,000 a year marketing myself. Billboards, shopping carts, moving trucks, my face on a pharmacy bag. Don't ask me how I ended up on a pharmacy bag, because I really don't know looking back, but I did, right? And I thought that's where
What's a pharmacy bag?
So we have a local pharmacy in our town. So when you go pick up your prescriptions, you get the little bag and it had my face on it.
Oh my gosh. What'd you have to pay to do that?
Don't know too much, obviously. So, but the point was to that is I was spending all this money and I didn't know where my leads were coming from. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm making money and leads are coming, and it has to be coming from the billboards and the moving trucks and all these things. But the truth of the matter is, when I started tracking my leads, not one person said, oh, I shop with you on Saturday morning, or, oh, I saw your billboard. It was, you sold my mom's house, you sold my friend's house, you did this, you did that. And that's why we're calling you. And so why I want you to track where your closings come from is if you're getting a decent amount of deals from your database, but you're spending no money there, and you're spending money over on something else, cold leads or something else, and you have no closings there, we need to allocate the cash to where the deals are already coming from and just beef that up a little bit to get more deals. Does that make sense to everybody? It's kind of supply and demand, if you will. Like, why are we paying for something that's not warranting a return? But most of us don't know that until it's too late because we don't track it. All right. So that's why the breakdown at the bottom on number 5 is how many closings came out of your database. We want to know that. Okay. How many came from your KIs? I call a KI a key influencer. So we're going to talk about that in a couple months. I'm going to teach a whole class on key influencers, but these are people that we leverage in our sphere to get multiple deals or referrals from in a year. So I want you to think about a builder, an investor, a flipper, people like that. Okay. We're going to talk about more about that in a couple months, but you can look on there with that definition and figure out if you have any key influencers, and then how many closings you had from those people. And then the last one is your cold lead source. I really want you to look at how many cold leads you converted. So that would be an open house, internet lead, website hit, something like that. Sign call, no referral or warm business. Okay. All right. Now I want you to go down to the next one. It says goals for growth. Now we're going to look at what we want to project for the new year. Okay. What do we want to project? So how much do you want to grow your business next year? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Is I want to make $10,000 more? You can have that however you want it, but I would base it on a percentage, because as you go through the rest of these numbered questions, we can reflect back up to the top and raise it by that percentage amount. Okay. So let's say you want to grow by 10%. I'm going to use really simple, easy math just to help us all work through. In case you're making notes on your forms, you can get this form reprinted a million times. So don't worry about writing on the one that you have. So we're going to go back up to number 1. Taxable income is 100,000. I want to grow it by 10%. So now I want my growth, my yearly taxable income, but to be 110. Okay. Simple, simple, simple. All right. Now you can't write your goal down. You're going to hear me say this in a little bit when we get to the goal sheet, and put it in a drawer and pull it out in September and go, oh shoot, I missed the mark. Listen, you got to dumb these things down. And I don't mean that disrespectful, but let's do it in bite-sized takes. So if our goal is to get $9,000 a month to hit our 110 roughly, right? And I just have to focus on $9,000 a month, I don't have to worry about 110. if I focus on $9,000 a month, $9,000 a month, and I only need 2 deals at $4,500 a deal, that's my monthly goals. That's my monthly nut, right? Don't worry about the 110. If we focus on the small pieces, they complete the whole picture, the whole puzzle. All right. So your monthly taxable income will be what? I'm sorry, your yearly and then your monthly. And then number 3 is your total number of units. So like I said a while ago, if you know at the top you're only making $4,000 per deal, just by bumping your sales price up a little bit, being intentional about chasing a little bit higher price range, and your average income per deal went to $4,500, you could get to $9,000 a month in income without doing any more deals. Is that making sense to everybody? Everybody follow me on that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. Okay, perfect. All right, good. Okay, so number 4 is your net income per transaction. So again, just what we talked about. If you want to bump it up, if you want to keep it the same, you know what your average income is, as well as your average sales price at the top. So we can make some little tweaks around those if you so choose to. And then number 6, how many leads do you need to generate every month? If you don't know your lead count currently, and a lot of us don't, we weren't taught that, it's okay. Start today. Between now and the end of the year, or even through the end of January, you can kind of get a good idea of how many leads did I generate in November, how many leads did I generate in December, and maybe how many leads did I generate in January. If you need to go back and tweak this, it's fine. But I will tell you just some really good rule of thumbs. We used to say that cold leads, I will say Zillow used to say that cold leads converted at about 2.8 to 5.1%. 2.8 to 5.1%. So if you need 2 deals, you can do the math. You got to generate a heck of a lot more leads to get 2 deals to close. Okay. Now I want you to know that the average around the country on a warm lead is about 55%. So 55% of warm leads that are given to real estate agents on average, I don't know how many people were in the study. I'm just going off of NAR statistics. 55%. So if I only need 2 deals, maybe I start out by saying, I want 7 warm leads a month. If I can get 2.5 or 3 deals under contract every month, if one pushes, guess what? I still have my 2. Where we as realtors get in our head is I only need 2. After I write 2, I'm going to go home and, hang out and just chill out and take a vacation or whatever. And the truth of the matter is crap is always going to happen. Crap is going to happen. You are going to have a fallout. So if you want 2 deals to close every month, why not write 3? Why not bump up that lead count just a little bit that you have that cushion? Okay. So if you've not been tracking your leads, start doing that now. Look at your lead count. Look at where the leads are coming from. That's what number 7 is. Where will your business come from next year? So if 33% of your deals in 2024 came out of your database, bump that up to 40. Hey, I want 40% of those deals that I close this next year to be out of my database. Makes sense? If none of your cold leads converted and you look at your budget, and you're like, well, I'm spending $300 a month on an ad spend and it warranted me no money, cut that sucker off and do one open house for a $50 ad, right? Start looking at the leads, looking at the money spend, the ad spend, so you can build the business that you really want to create. Okay. Now, got where we are right now. We've got a roadmap for next year. Nothing happens without action. Nothing. So if you get to the bottom of this and you're like, oh, I don't need to change anything, reevaluate. All of us need to do something different in the new year to hit that. And I want these to be weekly, tangible action items. So what do I mean by that? I use the example of I want a 40% close ratio out of my database next year. And right now I only have 33%. Okay. So I've got to raise that by 7%. So if I was having a conversation with you, I would say something like this. What do you do for your database? Are you mailing to them? No. Okay. Then we need to implement a quarterly mailer. Do you call them twice a year and check in with them and see how you can be a resource to them, find some value to add to them? No. Okay. I would time block an hour every day to call through your database twice next year. How much did that cost? Nothing. If you can't do the mailer, do the calls. You've already got your cell phone. I know you're going to make that cell phone bill. You're going to have a cell phone, right? Maybe you didn't do a client party this year. And I say, you know what? You need to do a summer party. Maybe it's popsicles in the park. It doesn't have to be $1 million experience. We get in our own head. We see our competitors renting out museums and having cocktails passed around and blah, blah, blah. And instantly we can't afford that. So we say we can't have a client party. It's not true. Do you guys realize that food banks need more food in the summer than they need at Christmas time? And when do we all want to do a food drive? Around the holidays, right? Have a food drive at the end of May, 1st of June for these kids that are home during the summer that need that food because they're used to being fed at the school. Have some cookies, have some popsicles that you buy at Publix, and have people drop off food on a Saturday morning and watch what happens while you're standing there talking and they're like, well, we might sell next year. There's a conversation for a potential client just because you bought them a 39-cent popsicle from Publix and held a food drive in your parking lot. Get out of your own head. Think about 3 action items that will help you achieve those goals. Now, once you've created the action items, they have to go on your calendar. I talk about I'm a master of the clock. Sometimes I fall short, but most of the time I can get a lot of crap done if it's on my schedule. Honest to God, I'm in Tennessee. I'm on Central Time Zone. I woke up at 3:50 this morning because that's 4:50 at my house. I'm always up by 5 o'clock, no alarm clock needed. So at 3:50 this morning, I am pounding out emails. I created a PowerPoint. I journaled. I'd had coffee, and I was already worked out by 5:20 this morning. Like, if you are passionate about getting something done, put it on your calendar. It will get done. Those things are on my calendar every day. Gratitude journal, read my Bible, work out. Those things are going to happen because they're on my schedule and I pay attention to them. So what you focus on matters. So those 3 action items must go on your calendar. However you time block them is mandatory. Okay? Questions around the business forecast before we go to the goal sheet? Any questions? Don't be afraid. I'm not really a bad person. I'll answer your questions.
How often do you look at this and how many times do you like how many times will you go over these goals? Do you kind of just do it once? Do you do this several times? How long does it should they be looking to finalize this before they go with their final draft?
Yeah, so I would say you've got about 6 weeks, let's say till the end of the year, right? Because we're all going to shut down the week between Christmas. Does that sound weird to anybody? 6 weeks till the end of the year. I was just at the Christian bookstore buying my girls' new Bible stuff, Chad, today.
Oh, very nice. I love that.
Anyway, but 6 weeks. So you got about 6 weeks. So when we get to the goal setting, I'm going to give you some challenges to set up some quiet time, a couple hours between now and the end of the year to do it. Perfect it, tweak it, make sure you're married to it, time block it. But now you will have, when we get to the goal sheet, I will tell you this with the business forecast and your goals, 30 minutes blocked in your schedule every month to pull them out and look at them. Because what happens is, you guys, we create these, we stick them in the drawer, we pull them out about September. And when we've missed the mark, we're like, oh, well, we'll try again next year. That's not an excuse. Oh, well, we missed it. It's because you didn't focus on it, right? So if you time block 30 minutes with yourself once a month, whether it's the first of the month, the middle of the month, the end of the month, I don't care, but you pull those out and you pay attention. Here's the thing to remember. If the market were going in the tank, I don't know that any of us thought it would be the way it is this year, last year when we were doing goal setting. But if you had been pulling out your goal sheets or your business forecast throughout this year, you could have adjusted your sales. You could have cut some things out of your budget. You could have tweaked the activities that you were doing and was proactive for generating leads versus being reactive. But if you printed your goals and stuck them in the drawer and you haven't looked at them, there's a pretty good chance that you probably won't hit them all. So to answer your question, Chad, once I perfect them over the next couple weeks, I'm going to laminate 3 copies, which you'll hear this in a few minutes. I have one in my car, I have one in my closet, I have one in my office, where I spend the most time in my car, in my closet, getting ready, and in my office. And I look at them every single month intentionally for about 30 minutes.
30
See if I need
minutes a
to make
month.
some adjustments.
Got it.
Okay.
Thank
Great
you.
question. Okay. Anybody else?
I have
Yeah.
a quick question, Kendra. Hi, by the way.
Hi.
Sorry I logged on late. I also struggled with getting on, which was a whole thing. So my question is, I feel like I've done this goal setting before, and some years are amazing and you're on target and you're hitting all of the goals. And then some years, you're falling short. And I have a tendency to, when I'm falling short, then I kind of get down on myself and I'm like, well, I'm never going to hit those numbers. And, so how do you kind of healthier mindset around that so that you don't feel like I'm already behind and I can never catch up. And now what do I do? Like, do you revise maybe the goals so that you're feeling like you can actually accomplish them? What's sort of your recommendation?
Great question. So I'm going to talk about this in goal setting, but I'm going to address it right now and I want to address it later. For both of these, if you were looking at them every month and you saw you were missing the mark, you guys, if you've ever been on a sailboat, I learned this when we went to Hawaii, but our course was charted to go straight out to this, island, and we were going to go straight out and we were going to I don't know, like dock for the day. We were going to snorkel. And as we're going out, the wind shifts and we're going further and further and further from our target. And the captain of the ship was like, I'm like, we're going the wrong way. We're going the wrong way. If you know me, I don't swim very well. So I'm kind of freaked out by water anyway. And he's like, it's fine. We're going to adjust the sail as we get a certain point. We're going to adjust the sail. We're just going to come in from another side. He's like, we can adjust the rudder. We can adjust the sail. It'll be fine. I was like, well, that's brilliant. It's kind of like real estate, right? So if you're paying attention to your forecast every single month in your goals and you say, hey, 2 months in a row, I've missed it. Let me make an adjustment. It's okay to bring it down a little bit so you aren't defeated when you keep missing it. Adjust the goal to fit where you are right now. Because like I said, none of us thought we would be here earlier this year. So we set a goal. If you haven't adjusted it, then you probably are a little frustrated and down on yourself. Maybe you aren't hitting those goals. So yes, absolutely adjust them. It's not giving yourself permission to quit. It's giving yourself permission to win. And I do think that we don't celebrate the victories that we have, the mini victories enough. So I know that for me, an atta girl to myself, or I'm proud of myself, I'll get back up and I'll work a little bit harder next month to get back on track. But if I can't 2 months in a row, make an adjustment. Does that help, Steph?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any other questions around the business forecast? All right, I am going to stop sharing and switch over to my other form. Hold the phone for just a moment. All right, so goal setting is going to look a little different for some of you that have done this with us before as well. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yeah, it just came up.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So let me give you a couple pointers around goal setting. I would say I've been setting goals probably most of my life, adult life. And I've done a lot of things that were really good, and I did a lot of things that weren't really good. I did things that worked, that didn't work. But here are some of my own personal struggles that I wrote down when I was thinking about teaching goal setting and business planning is all of us at some point in time have become very fatigued and exhausted chasing a goal. All of us have, right? And usually we're chasing it for the wrong reason. And as I process this over the last few years, why am I missing these goals? Why am I fatigued by this goal? Why am I chasing this goal for the wrong reason? It's usually because somebody told me it should be my goal. This is what you should do. This is how many deals you should close. This is how much money you should have. And you know what? My goals should not be someone else's goals. So when you chase goals for the wrong reason, you are going to get frustrated. So as I started digging into this year, I want to teach goals different, and I want to go back to why I was had fatigue and why I was frustrated. And it was a lot of times I didn't know the why behind the goal. So if you're looking at this sheet right now and you're like, oh my gosh, why is she asking me if that's important to me? Because I think that's important to accomplish the goal. When we say, I want to grow my business by 10%, and I say to you, why? And you say, because I'll be able to send my kid to private school. Why? Why is that important to you? Because I didn't get to go to private school. Okay. Why is that important to you? I also didn't go to college, and I want my kid to have a better education, to get into college, to have a better future. Now I know your true why. Does that make sense? And that's a true story. I started thinking about why was, making more money so important to me. I wanted to help my son create a different life than I had. Okay. But then when I started thinking about that's really important to me, but I also knew that I couldn't push over my bad money habits from 20 years ago on my kid either. So as I'm providing him a good education, I also have to provide him some money tools and techniques and strategies so he understands that he may not want to make the same kind of money I do. But if he saves it, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Do you guys understand that? So when you start digging into the whys, the goals take on a whole different meaning, right? I want to weigh X pounds. Why? I don't feel good. What will you change when you feel better? Well, I'll be able to take a walk with my wife or be more comfortable, whatever. Why is that important? Because I don't want to die young and leave my spouse a widow. Now you've got a more of a why behind that goal. You're more inclined to get up out of bed at 3:50 or 5 a.m. to go do the workout. Does that make sense to you guys at all? So as we go through this, you'll hear me ask you to ask yourself why 3 times. Go super deep. It's not, I want to make more money because I want to be rich. Well, why is being rich important to you? Ask yourself these questions. Okay. So I think that we've all experienced fatigue and exhaustion. I also know that if you are going to live authentically to your true self, these have to be your goals. Your spouse and your partner can have their goals, your kids can have their goals, but these are your personal goals. You got to own them, you got to like them, but more importantly, they got to represent who you are or who you want to become. Your goals should represent who you are or who you want to become. So if I'm throwing a goal out there because somebody told me I should do something, it's not going to mean the same thing. As a matter of fact, a lot of times you won't hit those goals anyway, or you'll get super frustrated getting them. And then when you arrive, you're like, well, I didn't even want that. Why did I work so hard? Why was I away from my family? That's not what I wanted. Okay. All right. So as we go through this, I want you to keep asking yourself, why? If you didn't print these and you're not going to do the worksheet right now, great. No big deal. But I want to walk you through it real quick. And then I've got some homework assignments for you. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Chad. So every year I pick a word and that I focus on for the whole year, whether it's intentional, simplify, brave, courageous. I've had them all. Like I've had a bunch of different words. So as I was creating this goal sheet earlier this year, I was like, what are some things that I know that I have struggled with in my life? And I'm going to put these words up here. If these are not your words or one of these doesn't resonate with you, just change it. Figure out what your word is. But as you go through your goal sheet, focus on the word that you choose. So if you need clarity, then make sure that your goals are around getting clarity around why that's important, why you want it, and maybe it seeks some guidance, right? Maybe you need some direction. So that might be your word there if you're like, hey, I need to hire a trainer and I need to get in a Bible study. I need more direction in my life around this fitness, family, faith, whatever. Action. Some of us really want to do well. We don't know how to take action. So maybe it starts there. If you're really in growth mode, hey, I've got to build my portfolio up to retire in the next 3 to 5 years, and growth or expansion is your word, choose that one. Okay. Some of us just need structure around, hey, I need to know where I'm going, give me some structure, and I can put the systems in place to get there. Maybe that's your word. So pick your word, what you need in your life right now for the next year, and think about that word as you go through these. So you'll see category 1 is future. This is your career, future of your career, future education. If you want to get your broker's license, finances, how much money you want to save this year, whatever. It's future around career, education, finance. Okay. I want you to list 3 goals, and I want you to ask yourself why 3 times that goal is important to you before you write that final why down. The first one is usually very surface level. The second one, you're finally getting to a little bit of the vegetables, but the meat and potatoes will come at your third why. Okay. Once you write your 3 goals down, then I want you to rank them. On the right-hand side, it says rank 1 through 3. What is the one most important goal that has to happen no matter what? The second one is going to be pretty close to the first one, like it's a close second. The third one is I could push it out for a year. I could put it on a 3-year vision board or a 5-year vision board. It doesn't have to happen right now. Okay. All right. The second category is relationships. Guys, we are in the relationship-based business. However, other than taking care of our database from time to time or a date night with our spouse, usually our relationships take a back seat. We're focused on our money, we're focused on our fitness, we're focused on getting to our next vacation, whatever, and the relationships tend to take a back seat. If you saw my post, if you follow me on social media last week, I posted a very vulnerable post. And it's so funny because somebody on this call is always calling me out saying, you need to be more vulnerable. You need to be more real. And so I posted that being more vulnerable and real, meaning that it is hard at my age to move and go find friends, not meaning that I don't have any friends. I have a crap ton of friends, but they don't live near me. Right. And so it was so funny. If you saw all the posts, everybody was saying, go do the Bible study. I'm like, I'm in a Bible study. Find a church. We're in a church. It's just very funny. And so when I tried to be vulnerable, it backfired on me. I'm like, okay, this is why I'm not vulnerable, people. But very funny because relationships matter, right? So whether you're in your 30s or in your 50s, relationships are probably one of the hardest things we have to work on daily. So whether it's a spouse situation you need to fix, a family, you're looking to meet some friends like I am in your new neighborhood, or clients. What do I mean by client relationship? Maybe you're not calling your database and you need to do a better job of staying in touch with them. Maybe you don't have a good relationship, something going on with your employees, or you're not doing employee of the month, or whatever it is you want to do to love on your employee. Those are all under the relationship category 2. Okay. Category 3, you are going to, this is all personal. This is where you can just, crush it for yourself. Faith, family, fitness, dreams. You want to read so many books. You want to attend so many seminars. Whatever it is around your personal growth needs to go here. Again, rate them on 1, 2, 3 based on category. And then your bottom is adventure. Are there some experiences you want to have? Is there a hobby you want to pursue? Kendra's taking up pickleball. For those of you that know me, this should be very interesting. I'm used to the ball being on the ground that I hit, not moving through the air. Lots of work to do there. But you know what? Maybe I'll meet somebody on a pickleball court, right? So we have to have some adventures and some fun. Okay. Goals don't always have to be about pound the stone. All right. So now we have created 12 ideas for goals, and we've rated them 1 through 3 per category. I personally believe 8 goals are plenty. Plenty. Okay. So once you get them done, we're going to go to our next sheet, and then we get to put them into action. So I want you to bring goal 1 and goal 2 over from category 1, and I want you to label 1 or 2 or 3 action items that it will take you to make that happen. So if it is save X dollars this year, maybe it is cut $100 every 6 months out of my budget, or $500. That would be an action item, right? Maybe it is cut my limit on my credit card so I can't max it out every month. That's a way to save money to get to my goal, right? Maybe it's just I need to save $100 a month and instead of going to Starbucks 5 days a week. Whatever the action items are should also go on your calendar. So we have the goal and the action items for category 1. We're going to do the same thing for 2, for 3, and for 4. It's not enough to write your goals down. You're going to have action items if you're going to succeed. Okay. Any questions around those forms? No? Okay. All right. I want to give you a couple homework assignments. So number 1, you have to have some quiet time with yourself in the next 6 weeks. You got to finalize your business forecast, and you have to finalize your goal sheet with your action steps. Okay. Number 2, you have to time block your action steps on your calendar for next year, for 2025. People ask me, does your calendar stay the same every day for 365 days? The answer is no. Life happens. I'm on vacation sometimes. I get fired. I don't have, whatever, right? So I'm going to put them on there knowing that I might have to move them, but I cannot remove them. So if I'm going to do first Wednesday of every month, check in with myself on my goal sheet and my business plan, and I'm on vacation on Wednesday, I see that the week before I leave, I just move it to the next week on the next Wednesday.
That's called things can move, they can't cancel.
That's right. You cannot remove anything from your calendar once it goes on. You cannot cancel it. Okay. That's number 2. Number 3, keep in mind that when you do these goals, make them realistic and tangible. It shouldn't say lose weight. An action item can't be go to the gym. Makes sense? I need to go to the gym 2 days a week with a trainer, or I need to go to kickboxing 1 day a week and lift 1 day a week, or whatever it is. Okay.
I think that's really important, Kendra. I don't want them to lose that point because I think we need to be able to measure. I think we need to be able to track, and I think we need to be able to reverse engineer. So if you're trying to lose 30 pounds in a year, that sounds like a lot. But if you break it down into what's that, like 3/4 of a pound per week, or 0.6 pounds per week, that doesn't sound like so much,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. It's just like on the forecast, when we said, 3 action items weekly, like when you break it down, how many leads do you need this month? How many leads do you need this week? It just makes it a little bit simple. Because when we look at the big number, it's very daunting, right? It's like, where do I start? So I think that's a great point. If you need to expand your knowledge, meaning you're going to take a broker class, you want to take public speaking class, you want to go to a technology class, I would highly recommend that you tie a date to that I'm going to hire that person, or I'm going to attend that event before March 31st, excuse me, or I'll have this workshop done and my license in hand by June, whatever. So tie some dates to those things, right? Even if, because it's easy to say, I'm going to get my broker's license. And again, you wait till September, October, like, oh crap, I'm taking the class. It's not going to happen this year. Give yourself some closer deadlines to hit around those knowledge things as well. I want you to ask yourself a real serious question. Do the people I surround myself with support my goals and missions? Do the people I surround myself with support my goals and missions? Which means you need to share your goals, especially the business ones, with the people that you work with. Your team lead, your top loan officer, your LOs, your admins, whoever you work with. If you're on a day-to-day basis with them and you're like, I want to close this many deals, I need to generate this many leads, an accountability partner close to you at all times, you should share that with them.
Guys, that's so important, and to think big with it. I just want to share success in that. I had a talk. I talked to a little bit at the beginning about an event I was at in Nashville, and my talk was 10xing your thought process. And funny enough, one of the people in the crowd, very, very successful developer, has his own private jet. You would never know this guy is wealthy beyond wealthy, $100 million in the bank, just great guy, but you would never know it. So he came up to me afterwards and he said, hey, your talk was about thinking big, but I think you could think bigger. Instead of taking this step, take this step. Right. So I shared that and I said it out loud. Now, one of my realtors is on right now, Helen. She's looking for the land for me to go from doing 4 spec homes to doing 100 spec homes within 2 years. And he said, my talk was do 16 spec homes in 2 years. He's like, why would you take that step? Just go from here to here. I get the 1, then I get the 4. So when you share these things out loud, another part of my talk was I want to own the Chicago Cubs. I have a call next week with the owner of the Oakland A's about becoming an investor in their move to Vegas. He's like, hey, we do some minority owners. One of my best friends. I'll see what I can do to get your foot in the door of being one of the minority owners. So just sharing that out loud opened these doors that I don't know how I would ever have access to these doors without speaking those dreams out loud.
I love that. Yes, we all, you challenged me because I was in the room that day, and we'll have a conversation when I get to Charlotte about that.
Good.
So, I said this earlier, are your goals true to who you are or who you want to be? These are your goals, right? And are they specific and measurable? Okay. The last homework assignment I'm going to give, and then Chad, I'm giving it back to you, is I do this every year. People think I'm crazy, but it's okay. I am. Couple things. I said it earlier, print 3 copies. When you're finally in love with your goals and your business forecast, print one on one side, one on the other, and laminate them. 3 copies. Got to be in your closet, in your bathroom. Obviously, if they're on your mirror, you're going to have 2 separate. In your car, the flip one is fine. You're going to place them to where you see it every day. You're going to set these action items in your calendar. And the last one is, I do this every year. I write a letter to myself as if it's December 31st, 2025. And they're very fun to read, by the way. They're very funny. They're like, hey, girl, hey, it's December 31st, you got a cocktail in your hand, you know, you're celebrating the victories. You didn't crush them all, but you worked your butt off. Or sometimes I say you did crush them, your dreams are coming true, whatever, right? I am celebrating the fact that I worked my butt off, that I gave it my all. And I like to read it out loud. Of course, my husband thinks I'm cray-cray half the time, but it's very fun to write that letter now based on as if you hit all of them or you hit 80% of them or whatever you want your letter to be, and then seal it and put it away. Put a reminder on your calendar for December 31st to pull that letter out and read it to yourself and celebrate with yourself, or read it to your partner, spouse, or significant other. So that is my presentation, Chad. I'm giving it back to you.
Awesome. Well, I want to give you guys an opportunity to ask some questions. And anyone willing to share some things that they want to work on, please share as well. And I got some prizes for those that were on camera the whole time. I've been watching. There's 5 of you that have been on the camera the entire time. So I'm going to get you a copy of Kendra's book that just came out, and I'm going to ask her about this in a second. But anyone want to share or have a question for Kendra on how to think bigger, some goals that they need some help on, anything that you want to share or ask Kendra?
I got a question.
Go for it, Brian.
What happens, I've always had this why for the last 4 or 5 years. Life has changed, so the why is changing, but I'm not sure what my new why is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
How do you figure that out?
I think for me, probably I would take a piece of paper and I draw a line down the middle, and it's like my likes and my dislikes, things that I enjoy doing, things I don't enjoy doing, the people that I surround myself in my life that make me happy, the people that I surround myself with that don't make me happy. I would kind of do a valid check-in with yourself. And I think when you start looking at that, your why will become a little more clear. Once you have enough money in the bank, it ain't about money anymore, right? Maybe it's about time. Or, I've always, like for me, I've always wanted to go to Jerusalem, and it's happening. I've paid for the trip and I'm going in June, God willing. Like my why has been about taking care of everybody else my whole life. And now I'm starting to do things for myself. And so my why has changed too, right? I just still want to pay it forward, but it is time for me to enjoy some things that I've always put on the back burner to make sure everybody else had what they needed. So I would kind of do an assessment check-in with yourself, likes and dislikes. And I think out of that, you'll start kind of coming clear on what your why is.
Yeah. Thanks.
That's a great
good
question.
I think, Kendra, wouldn't you say too, for the whys, like you can have different whys for different things too,
Absolutely.
right? And then
Absolutely.
also, I think, we all struggle. I shouldn't say we all. I struggle with feeling like I have to have one overall why, right? And then I feel like I sometimes do things that don't necessarily support that why.
Right.
Right? Like I would say like my deep why is providing, a legacy for my kids. But then in turn, sometimes I'm not present with my kids because I'm supposedly, doing all of this for them. I don't know if anybody else can relate to that, but like, I feel like I have a lot of moments like that.
Yeah.
And so I struggle a little bit with that, like with, they are my why, but then why do I not necessarily truly put them first as my why
Right.
in everything else that I'm doing?
Absolutely. And I think, and like you said, you can have different whys for different seasons. I mean, different seasons, different whys. But I think, you can even separate it business and personal. Like they are my why I get up and go to work and at times. But again, that's going to change too, because as they get older, they're not going to need you as much. So
Right.
yeah, I think it could definitely change.
Hey, can I say something? This is Oren.
Sure
Although
you can.
it says Corey. This again, it's kind of like a tip of what I do with my business planning, right? Than trying to do it kind of like linear throughout the year. I break it down to quarters because we know that every quarter is different. So the first quarter won't be as strong as the second quarter, and same thing with the third quarter. So that way I can adjust the amount of leads I need to get to hit my goals, and then I can sort of like shooting in the dark and not being really more tactical overall.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think you can break it, like you could say the first 6 months, I want the goal to be X, and the next 6 months, I want it to be Y. You could even set a reset in the middle of the year to go back and change your goals or adjust them. I think that's fine.
So Kendra, when did this come up on your goals?
About 10 years ago, it was on my vision, and then 5 years ago, I moved it forward, and then when I was leaving my previous career, I decided that this was going to be my gap year. I think I've worked harder this year than I've worked in years, but it's been fun stuff that I love. And so I, moved it forward, and I hired a publisher, gave myself 6 months to write it. I wrote it in 4.5, and it came out October 21st, bestseller in 4 days, which means I had to sell 5,000 copies in 7 days. And we did that in 4. And it's out of stock right now, but if you just go ahead and order it, it just takes about 5
Out
to
of
7
stock
days.
for me. I got a bunch of them.
So, but yeah, it's been moved up and moved up and moved up. So it was a dream come true.
So Denise and Carmen and Karina and is it Dahlia? And am I saying that right? I'm gonna send you guys my email, and I will all get you a copy of Kendra's book. I know we're from all over around here, but anyone on from North Carolina, Kendra will be here Friday at Lonely Planet Brewery in Cornelius doing a book signing. A bunch of us will be there with her. That's at what time is it at,
It's
Kendra?
from 5 to 7 on Friday.
5 to 7 this Friday. So if you're in the area, come have a couple drinks with us and get an autograph from the now famous author Kendra Cooke. And I just want to end on think big, guys. We've all got kicked in the teeth and punched in the gut. On the lending side, it's been about 2.5 years. I know it's really affected our realtor partners this year. It's been a very tough year. The great news is the forecasts are much bigger for next year. Interest rates are being forecasted to be in between 4.5% and 5%. I've seen forecasts as large as 75% increase in business next year. I think that's a little aggressive, but some people I really respect and the analysts I follow are forecasting. Fannie Mae came out with theirs, and theirs is 50% more deals than this year. So it looks like we're going to have a lot of opportunities, but will you be ready for it? Will you get ahead of the hiring? Will you automate? Will you delegate? Will you set systems? Will you set your disciplines? Because I believe to accomplish all this, we have to have the discipline, right? And then the discipline creates the habits, right? And once you have good habits, then you can create opportunities. And once you can create opportunities, you can create relationships. And once you have relationships, you have influence. And once you have the influence, you can have anything that you set your mind to. But it all starts with those daily disciplines and habits. So think big. We will be doing this the second Wednesday at this time every single month.